Hello, I'm Cheryl Meyer, and I'm otherwise known as Cheryl M. Health Muse. And what my goal is to inspire you to lead a healthier life. So when I proposed my podcast, I proposed that we present it in two different segments. The first one is It Feels Good to Feel Good, Future-Proof Your Health, where I get to share everything I have learned to return my health back to relative wellness and to live a pain-free life in spite of the fact that I have autoimmune disease. But the second part of my podcast is this episode, and that's Tell Me Your Story, the Health Muse is in. My concept with this is it's all fine and well that you hear me tell my story, but I get a lot of, it's all fine and well that it worked for you, but it's not going to work for me. And I wanted you to hear that there are lots of people out there that have made changes in their lifestyle that have supported their health and brought them back to relative wellness. We all have a couple things in common. We all owned our own health. Whatever the doctor was suggesting we did was going on a parallel path to us making these lifestyle changes where we did things that cleaned up our toxic load. We all pay attention to our body. You'll hear jazz in the background because I want you to listen to the rhythm of your health, and I want you to pay attention to what your body is telling you. My body had been trying to tell me that I was going to topple over into toxic load for some time. I just wasn't listening. So if you clean up your lifestyle and if you listen to your body, you have a very good chance not of being deprived in any way, but returning to feeling darn good. And that's what these podcasts are really all about. So thank you for joining me. This is going to be a Tell Me Your Story, the Health Muse is in episode, and I hope you enjoy it. And I hope that we all inspire you to lead a healthier, happier life. Thank you.
Hello, this is Cheryl M. Health Muse, and we're having another Tell Me Your Story, the Health Muse is in. And I have a fabulous guest this morning that I particularly am interested in hearing all about what she does and how she does it. Her name is Lourie. She is from Berkeley, California, where I actually went to school. So it's exciting to meet somebody who's up in my old neck of the woods. And she is a naturopath, an acupuncturist, a homeopath, and she specializes especially in breast cancer, but she does do all chronic illness, which, as you know, is what the focus of most of my podcasts have been on, because I got autoimmune disease. So we're going to have a fantastic conversation. She is functionally trained. She agrees with a lot of the same things that I've been talking to you about, only you're going to get it from the perspective of naturopath, which I think is exciting because they do practice a little differently, and it will give you another option to go seek additional information for your health. So welcome, Carol. I'm delighted to have you here.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I'm super delighted to be here.
Good. So tell me what made you first decide you wanted to be a naturopath?
Well, I had always thought I was going to be a regular medical doctor, and the universe brought me to working in the office of this holistic chiropractor. And this was in the 70s when the word detox was not a household word. He was using iridology to diagnose people's medical conditions. And I started working for him and seeing the people, one who either hadn't been able to be helped through regular medicine or had actually been damaged through regular medicine. And to let you know how naive I was, a young girl came in and she had bad skin. And I thought, why is she here? You have bad skin, you take antibiotics. What's the question? What's the big deal? That's how uneducated I was.
And that's how uneducated most of the population is.
Right.
Still today.
Yes, unfortunately, that's what we're working to change. So one day, every several months she comes in, and I saw people, they came in once a month, and People who were depressed were getting better. People who needed to lose weight were losing weight. People who had serious conditions were getting better. And she came in after 2 months and her skin was all better. And I thought, wow. And then one day I was going through this huge pile of paperwork, which we all tend to collect on our desks. And there all of a sudden was a catalog to the National College of Naturopathic Medicine. And like the bells went off and I thought, maybe I should go here. So if I hadn't done A and I hadn't worked in his office and that hadn't happened and that hadn't happened, I never would have heard about the National College of Naturopathic Medicine. And I applied. And
Which is, I believe, the most renowned school for
well, there are
naturopaths in the
several.
country.
Yes. I mean, it was in those days, it was the best. And now there's John Bastyr in Seattle, and there's a naturopathic medical school in the in Arizona, I believe, and there's one in Connecticut. So there's one in Canada. So there's 5, and they're all excellent. They're all accredited and everything. So, but I was there in the very beginning when it was just becoming its own. I mean, naturopathic medicine has had a long journey to get to where it is today, and it's still an ongoing journey because, unfortunately, the allopathic medical profession is still the standard of care for most people. And it's not a competition. It's not one or the other. We want to take the best of both worlds, especially when dealing with serious illness such as autoimmune or breast cancer or any type of cancer for that matter.
We want to try whatever helps the body heal. And allopath is not open to that, which is unfortunate.
Some of them are and some of them aren't. It's important not to make generalizations. You want to find a doctor that will listen to you and value what you want to do and not be condescending or make you feel like it's not important. It's very important to choose who you work with, I think.
Oh, it is. I agree. And I also think it's important to own your own health, not to do something different than what your doctor is suggesting, but so that you can go have robust conversations with him and understand what he's suggesting that you do.
Him
So
or
it's
her.
important, him or her.
Let's use her.
Okay,
Because
her.
we're women, so we'll use her.
Yeah, well, at the time, my doctor was a female who had known me a long time.
Yeah.
But when I got autoimmune disease after running 4 rounds of tests, she came back and said, I'm going to give you steroids because you say you hurt. But in all honesty, I want you to seek mental therapy.
Yeah, that's so common. That's
And I said,
unfortunately, that's very
you're
common.
not in my body. I'm in my body. And I'm telling you something's wrong. And I'm going to go find it. And why would I take steroids if there's nothing wrong with me?
Well, there are times when steroids as an emergency are very appropriate and, absolutely. But to give somebody chronic steroids for a chronic condition, unless it's a critical moment and it's just short period, in my opinion, is unfortunate. But I think this is where, we have to go into the conversation of the limitations of standard medicine and when it's time to seek a naturopath or functional medicine physician or in integrative care, because I am a believer in we want to take the best of both worlds. Thank God there is surgery when you need it. I mean, thank God there is.
And we need our doctors. I'm not saying that we don't.
Right, absolutely. Advanced medical care for appropriate serious medical conditions. But the whole perspective that I provide for the women I work with is if you have breast cancer, if you have a serious illness, we need to start doing a little bit of unearthing and figuring out what are the driving metabolic, genomic, and emotional and lifestyle factors that have contributed to this illness. It's not a matter of shame. It's not like you gave yourself XYZ disease. But we all let the ball slip sometimes and eat more sugar or drink more wine or don't get enough sleep or decide to stop exercising or have a lot of stress. And then there is the genetic component, and there are certain gene markers where if a woman has them, it will increase her chance of getting breast cancer up to 25%. But there's a lot that we can do to get those statistics lower. And also most
and epigenetics thinks with lifestyle, you have the choice of turning that switch on or leaving it off.
Absolutely.
So, one of the reasons I was excited to talk to you is I want women to know there are options available to them so that if they're not getting the answers that they want, that resonate with them from their medical doctor, there are other practitioners that they can go explore their health with that very well may have unbelievably great solutions for them. And you are one of the possibilities of a great solution. I actually tripped into the functional medical community and listened to 19 different symposiums with multiple doctors because I had no clue what I was looking for, but I knew I was going to dig until I found it. And then
Wonderful.
I wrote down the threats. I might have something called leaky gut. I might have something called toxic load. So then that's where I started. I started actually with stress. I had my own business, and friends had started pulling me aside and telling me that stress accumulates, that I was showing signs of severe stress, and that I needed to deal with it. So that I knew was an issue. And I knew my cortisol was low, but as I shared before we started, she sort of felt it wasn't to disease stage yet. So what's to do? But that's where I started. I started learning breathing exercises and doing yoga and doing
Wonderful.
mindset and meditation. And then I dug into EWG and started looking up household products and things that I was using. And by the time I was done, I eliminated dozens of toxic products to lower my toxic load, which did help me quite a bit with how I was feeling. I also significantly changed how I ate. GMOs had been on the ballot in California, didn't understand them. So much misinformation was passed. I started figuring out what should I eat? Did it make a difference to eat organic? And I started eating more plant food and what I call meat that eats his own specific diet: grass fed, grass finished beef, lamb, grass fed, grass finished bison, um,
Wonderful.
pastured chicken. So all of that became part of my diet. And so that was great because between all those things, I took my first leap back to a pain free life. I had so much pain I
Wonderful.
couldn't get out of bed, but it led me eventually to my own functional doctor. But
Well, what you did was really right, because you started doing some research thinking, not knowing anything, thinking, well, let me find out what it could be. It could be A, it could be B, it could be C, it could be D. And then you started investigating all of that and diving in deeper and doing maybe some individual work or programs or courses. And then that led you to be able to begin to see, well, yeah, all these little changes that I'm making gradually, all of a sudden my pain is dramatically
yeah, I
less.
was amazed at how
And
smart my body was. It started saying,
yeah,
keep doing what you're doing because I'm feeling a little better, Cheryl. Keep going.
yeah, you can see that. And when a woman finishes breast cancer treatment, she's often left feeling very fatigued. There's an emotional stress, trauma response. And the interesting thing is when she rings the bell, which is what they do, which is, to me, it's a mixed bag because you've rung the bell and they tell you you're done. But the reality is that breast cancer or cancer is a metabolic disease. So you may be done with addressing the tumor, but now is the time for us to start looking at how can I make my body inhospitable to cancer regrowth and detoxify from treatment and then move on to reduce the risk of recurrence. So there's a lot of work to be done, and this is taking the best of both worlds. The allopathic medical profession is wonderful for that initial part, but then part two or section two, they don't often pay attention to. That's not their area of expertise. They give you tamoxifen or aromatase inhibitors, and there's no real focus on addressing how cancer is a metabolic disease and what that means for you as a woman who has had breast cancer.
Right. Right. Let's go back one second. You got involved with breast cancer, you shared with me, because one of your best friends got breast cancer.
Correct.
So you decided that's where you wanted to focus your practice. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I had studied about cancer and breast cancer at the National College of Naturopathic Medicine in Portland, and it was something that I knew of as a naturopath. I mean, yes, there's cancer out there. We had a one or two classes, but it wasn't an area that I had really focused on. And I had a friend who was very healthy. She ate organic. She, had pretty healthy lifestyle, and she had breast cancer. She came up with an abnormal mammogram, and I committed to going to every treatment with her, which took 18 months. And during that time, I immediately began to use my skill set. And one day when we were at the doctor visit at UCSF in San Francisco, and that was like a 5 or 6 hour day because we had to go, it takes time to get there and all the waiting and the blood tests and all of that. And the doctor looked up at the blood work and looked at us and said, I don't know what you're doing, but I want all of my patients to do that too. She was in the middle of chemotherapy and she didn't have anemia. Her white cell count was good. She looked good. She had energy. She had vital force. And we were full on doing integrative and natural protocols with intermittent fasting and targeted supplementation and the smoothie and acupuncture and mindset. So we were like, we took it on as a spiritual moment. And I think that's part of what I bring to the table when I work with women with breast cancer is there is this philosophy. It's a war. It's something you should conquer. You need to attack. And the cancer, and like, who are you attacking? Yourself? I mean, we can't choose what life puts in front of us. Like breast cancer has been plopped in the middle of your path of life, but you absolutely have an enormous amount of choice and impact in how you respond to that. And making yourself a victim is not going to take you where you want to go physically, emotionally.
Actually, it probably harms you if you let yourself be a victim and you go into the victim mindset.
Right. And it's easy to go there at times. And we all have these moments where we slip into that. And it's important to know, one, that you've slipped into the victim moment, and you can slip out. And, I have an online community where we support each other. Women get to post for support. If they go, oh, I'm having a victim moment, I need help. There'll be a lot of people who, so community support is, I think, a very important aspect.
Actually, the Blue Zone study has made community the number one most important element to health, is to surround yourself with loving, supportive people. And that is as important as anything that we do to keep us healthy and vibrant. So yeah, totally community is critical. Yeah. So you graduated, you relocated to the Bay Area.
Right. I got my acupuncture license. I continued my study of homeopathy. I opened my practice, and I always was interested in working with women. I do work with men, but most of my practice is women, and I'm very drawn to complex disease because I think that it takes a while for disease to develop. And we need to follow the path of how you ended up here with this illness. And I bring in a lot of the mind-body component. When you think about your illness, start to have a conversation with it. What is it saying to you about who you are and what it's there and what's off with your life, and how can you get recovered from this? I mean, I think recovery is always possible. And healing is always possible. And it may not mean that you're going to become 100% symptom free, but wherever you are, you can get better. And especially when, you've rung that cancer bell and you're done, and all of your family and friends and loved ones and work think, okay, you're done treatment. Let's get back to it. Let's have you be back to your regular self. And as women, we tend to multitask. And, before we even leave the house, we've done 20 things.
Right.
And if you're not feeling physically well, it's a real shock in the beginning for you to realize how much energy you need just to do your daily life. So, and people can't see that you're not feeling well. So you go into the doctor and you say to her or him, I don't have any energy, and they check your blood and you're not anemic, and then they go, well, would you like some antidepressants? I mean, it's much more than that. We need to repair what the treatment has done, and maybe you need therapy. I'm a big proponent of emotional support therapy. a lot of women change jobs after they completed with breast cancer treatment.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because it's an opportunity to really take a good look at your life, and it puts that very close right up in focus about what's important and what is working and what isn't working. And where do you need to go and where do you want to go from your heart to this next chapter of your journey? Do you need to change work? Do you want to stop working for a while? Can you afford to stop working? Do you need to have, some more serious conversations with your life partner? Or do you want to find a life partner if you don't have one? I mean, how are your children if you have children? There's a lot of questions that we need to, that come up. And I think people need a safe place to address all of those. It's a life-changing event. Having one or two breasts removed is a very big deal.
Yeah, that interferes with your self-esteem
It
as
can,
well as with your physical body.
yeah, it can. And you have to make sure that you absolutely need that. That's, I always encourage women before they have a mastectomy to really have a consultation with someone such as myself, because what does the research say about removing your breasts with given the type of cancer you have? Is this an absolute necessity?
And I know that allopathic medicine would opt for that right
Sometimes,
away, but
no,
you,
sometimes yes, sometimes no. They have their parameters are might be a little different than what I would think, but I think it's important to have an open conversation with the oncologist and make sure you're making the right choice for where you are in your medical journey. I mean, yes, if it's absolutely necessary, if that's what the research clearly says, let's prepare you for that and let's decide, are you having breast implants or not, or are you having reconstruction or not? We have to make educated and informed decisions. That's what empowerment is about.
do you work hand in hand with an allopathic doctor with your patients, or do you work with your patients separately from their cancer doctor?
I am I I am always open to working as part of a team. And is the so we need to get the woman who I'm working with to bring me in with her doctor. I'm absolutely open, but sometimes I'm an aside, and then they'll sign a release, and I am able to talk to the doctor. But I often work as part of a team, and I think having a team is a really good approach.
No, absolutely. If the doctor, the oncologist is open to it, because sometimes they're not.
Right, but then the woman has a choice,
Right,
right?
right.
I mean, the woman is the head of the team, in my opinion. And it's her life, it's her body, it's her choice, and absolute she can take advice from everyone, and then the decision to what to do is to move forward, it comes from her. And that needs to be always, in my opinion, that needs to be taken into consideration.
And I tell women, no one lives in your body but you.
Mhm.
So don't let someone be the who said of the greatest magnitude, which is an old rehealing term that I learned from Pacific Institute. They're not God. You are the ultimate resource on how you feel and what's going on. So own that and don't let them tell you how you feel. And then find the solutions that resonate with you that are right for you.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about how you approach the cancer differently than an allopathic doctor does, because I think a lot of people listening don't know that. As a
Well,
naturopath and a homeopath and then
sure,
an acupuncturist.
sure. um well, homeopathy is its own system of healing. And when I take somebody's case, I ask questions that nobody ever asks, like a regular intake doctor would never ask, like, how do you sleep? Do you sweat when you sleep? Do you like the window open or closed? Do you sleep on your back? Do you sleep on your side? What dreams do you have? That's usually reserved for therapy, but as a homeopath, the dreams help guide me to what's happening on a deeper level. um, what are your food cravings? What's your favorite food? Whether you know what is good or what isn't for you. What's your favorite food? What foods do you not like? Um, what's a sensation? There, somebody could be talking about a certain topic, and I go, "What's a sensation of that?" And that's people don't understand that what the term sensation. It's sort of like, well, when you're talking about a fear of, I'm making this up, like heights. So you have a fear of heights. Okay, great. But what's the sensation? Does it make you feel like you're going out of control, that you're going to fall? Or, I mean, you'd be surprised what comes out of people's mouths and their minds. And that helps guide because when you have a diagnosis of disease A, four people could have the same diagnosis medically, and each one of those people could have different symptoms and need a different remedy. And a very good example of that is poison oak or poison ivy. You get this bumpy rash and it itches. For some people, that itching is better if they put cold on it. For some people, that itching is better if you put hot on it. Those are very different remedies. For some people, that itching is better if they wrap up. For some people, that itching is better if they are lying exposed. They don't want anything touching their skin. The color that comes out of the pustules can look different. All of those indicate different homeopathic remedies. So it's the epitome of individualized medicine and healthcare in general. As an acupuncturist, I do acupuncture in my clinical practice with my online community. I find acupuncturists for people to see locally where they are. But in my practice, and in general, Chinese medicine feels like your energy should be like a smooth flowing river. Think of that nice little stream, gradually, slowly. It's a beautiful day. But when there's debris or a storm, stuff falls in the river and it keeps that water from flowing smoothly. And eventually some of that water will form a little pocket of mud because the water evaporates. And when it does, the mud is known in Chinese medicine as a tumor. So that's stagnation, blood and qi stagnation. So my job as an acupuncturist is to keep the river flowing smoothly. And you can do that individually if you do Tai Chi or Qigong or yoga every day. There are the wonders of YouTube is that there are hundreds of people you can find, and you can look for somebody that really resonates with you. Sometimes it takes 10 tries to find the right teacher to teach you the movements of Tai Chi or Qigong or yoga. So those are something that you can do for yourself easily from the comfort of your home. And from a functional or naturopathic perspective, I like to go pretty deep into not just the pathology report that is generated from a biopsy, but I want specific tests, further deepening tests, maybe neogenomics or a Caris molecular intelligence report or an oncotype. If it's DCIS, which should be standard of care, and unfortunately is not always the case. To find out what are the driving genetic SNPs that have contributed to your breast cancer. And then as you said earlier, we can't change the genetics, but we can either support the inflammation or reduce it. And that's where nutrition and supplements and lifestyle and toxin-free home and dealing with stress all come in.
And I think many people don't realize how much all of the toxins in our world are impacting our lives.
I had a young girl come to see me who was 35, and she had, quote, unexplained infertility. And well, I love it anytime somebody comes in and goes, I'm sick, but it's unexplained illness. I have a mystery illness. And because there's no such thing. It means that the right testing hasn't been done, or there's a severe psychological trauma that's expressing itself. But for her, she had on so much perfume, and I had a perfume-free, scent-free office. I had to open all the windows, and I said, so what's with you and scent? And she said, oh, I love scent. And I said, what does that mean? She had the plugins in the wall. She had those sticks in the oil. And this is what did it for me. She was spraying her sofa with that spray stuff they advertise on television, the name of which I'm not going to say. And I'm going like, oh. So I said to her, do me a favor, when you go home, I want every single item you use on your body, in the spraying, in the wall, in the scents, the laundry, the plug-ins, the, dishwashing, everything, and take a picture and send it to me. 29 items.
Oh my God.
And I said, this is why you can't get pregnant. So she had to throw out her sofa because we couldn't detoxify it. And let me just explain to your audience, when you use those chemicals, the spray stuff,
Even the one that
stuff,
takes the odors out of the air, by the way, which
that's
is probably
sticking in
what
the
she was
wall.
spraying on her couch.
That's, open the windows. Don't use that stuff. The laundry detergent, the dryer sheets.
Yeah.
Your skin is an organ and it absorbs. You get out of the shower, you wrap your body in a towel that's had dryer sheets, and it has that dryer sheet chemicals on it. You wrap your towel in that, and your pores are open, and the chemicals go into your body. Now, what happens with those chemicals? They look like estrogen. They're called estrogen disruptors. And estrogen needs to be broken down and then eliminated from your body through your urine and your intestines. And it gets to this place where it has to bind with the product that's eliminating it, the enzyme that's eliminating it. But these chemicals, they take the place of the real estrogen because they look like estrogen. And when the enzymes come to bind with the real estrogen, the fake one says, hi, I'm here, bind with me. So the real estrogen doesn't get to be eliminated and turns into an unhealthy version of itself called estrone. That contributes to estrogen dominance, polycystic ovarian syndrome, infertility, and breast cancer. Notice I said it doesn't cause, it contributes.
Right.
So when you need to have a toxin-free home. I mean, there is a lot of things in life that we don't have control over, but you will have 100% of control over what you bring into your house.
You do the best you can.
Right.
Literally, I've eliminated probably more than 100 products. And at the time, I looked up every single ingredient because whole products were not in the EWG database yet.
Right.
But now I have learned to start at the bottom of the list, which is the least amount. And when I hit something that's really toxic, it goes out of my house, because while it's in my house, it's off-gassing.
Right.
And then I start looking for something better to replace it with.
Right. And we're lucky because there's a lot of options. There's the health food store that has lots of options for cleaning products and laundry and facial products and deodorant and hair products and all of that.
And more all the time. When I started 10 years ago, there were less.
Yeah.
But more of us are demanding toxin-free products. So they are, big food and big chemical and all those guys, they don't want to lose that business. So they are starting to develop some things, but most people aren't even aware that it's an issue.
That's true. It's true. So it's an uphill battle, and you're participating in that to get the word out. That's really wonderful.
I've actually written 2 books to give people a head start on what did I find toxic in my life, how did I find them, what did I replace them with, and how would you want to keep researching till you find a product that's right for you. Because what I use may not be right for you, but silly things like my head was itchy for 20 years. Well, it ends up I was allergic to the chemicals that were in my shampoo. Never occurred to me. So, and I have a theory that most people are walking around feeling lousy or dealing with things that they don't even know they could take care of in their lives if they investigated it more. So it's being aware. I have a conversation with my body every morning. And I ask myself, how am I doing? And my body will say, I'm not feeling quite as good as I was yesterday. And then I'm like a little computer. I go through, what did I do yesterday so that my body's responding that way? And I adjust immediately, because my pain was so terrible, I am never going back there. So my second book is How Do I Live Without Eating the Standard American Diet and All These Poisons? So how do I go to a restaurant? How do I vet a restaurant? How do I go to somebody else's house for dinner? It's all the things that I didn't have any clue how to do, but it's how I now live my life so that I am as sustainably low toxin as I can be, because the names of my books are Feels Good to Feel Good. I'm not giving that up.
That's
And
great.
my
Let's
body,
talk
if
about,
I pay attention, my body will tell me that I'm giving it up.
that's beautiful. Let's talk about the toxicity of the standard American diet for a second. The
Oh,
initials of
God.
the standard American diet are SAD, SAD.
And it is one very sad
It's not
diet.
just sad, it's dangerous. The standard
Uh-huh.
American diet quadruples the cancer rate. And it also is a major, major contributor to cardiovascular disease.
Right, because it has to go through the liver. And I just did a whole liver symposium that the liver is the #1 cause of heart disease because it reaches a point where it can't keep up to get all this crap out of our bodies.
Mhm.
And so that's when it starts creating havoc. So, yeah.
Well, the standard American diet has been proven that to increase cancer rates. In Japan, there was almost no breast cancer. And as it became more Americanized, the American influence came in, the breast cancer rate skyrocketed.
Right.
So in the work that I do, I recommend the modified Mediterranean diet. Notice the phrase modified, because first of all, why Mediterranean? There's an enormous amount of research over 25 years with 25,000 or 35,000 women followed eating this diet, this way of nutrition for 20 years or so. So that those kinds of statistics are very powerful. Number two, it tastes delicious and it's easy to convert from the standard American diet, because I don't think women should have to cook one way for themselves and another way for the rest of the
Right.
family. Number three or number four, I lost
But they
track.
do have to cook. I do get some
Or
resistance on the
somebody in the
cooking part.
household has to cook. It doesn't
Right.
have to be the woman. It could be
Because you want to
other
control what you put in your
spouse,
body.
or the teenagers, or somebody has to. We have to find time to cook. Luckily, I like to cook, but there are some women who don't. So in those cases, we have to have a conversation about, well, what are we going to do? It's healthy not just for the woman, but for everyone in the household.
Right.
And you are able to go out to eat in restaurants or to somebody's home and still stick within the parameters of your food plan. And notice I'm not using the word cheating. It's not about, who are we cheating? Ourselves? We're not cheating. We're, eating healthy because it's something that we choose to do. It's not me telling you, you have
Right.
to eat this way. That's not going to work.
I
Diets
know.
don't work.
People love to ask my husband and I if we're deprived. My husband laughs hysterically. He said, when I was eating the crap, the carbonated, artificial, processed food, and eating the standard American diet, I was deprived because I felt lousy. Now
Mhm.
that we're eating 70% of our plate is vegetables and we're eating clean meat, no, I'm not deprived because I feel fantastic.
And it's not that
So,
hard to cook this way.
no, it's not. And it doesn't have to be complicated.
Mhm.
People seem to think they have to become Julia Child overnight. They don't have to become Julia Child overnight. They just need to roast some, and I prefer organic because I don't want everybody to be eating the toxins on our food. But you can roast your vegetables and they get incredible flavor.
Mhm.
There are simple things you can do that don't take a lot of time. I take out some kind of meat in the morning that's healthy meat, and I know what vegetables I have, and they're all cleaned and ready to go in my refrigerator. I can put dinner on with maybe a half an hour a night. It's not a hard process, but I'm controlling what I put into my body because I'm worth it to do that.
Way to go. Right.
And that's what I want other women to do as well.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So, and if you're eating Mediterranean, you're eating fish, which is
Well,
also
the modified Mediterranean for women with cancer is, first of all, cancer will choose sugar over glucose for
right.
its cancer energy gas tank, even though it gives them less ATP or less energy, and it's a more difficult pathway. That's known as the Warburg effect, and it was discovered by a German scientist in 1918. He won the Nobel Medicine Prize for it in 1924. That was the beginning of understanding that cancer is a metabolic disease. So understanding that gives you an enormous amount of empowerment, that you can choose either to feed your cancer or go, not going to do that. I'm not feeding my cancer. I'm going to keep the gas out of the cancer gas tank. And I'm
Right.
going to be on modified, which means that very low grains, very low carbs. The grains that you can have are gluten-free. And quinoa and kamut are grains that have very high protein. You're not going to eat a ton of them. Even rice it goes into sugar very easily, unfortunately. So, and if you're going to eat a cracker, which also converts to carbs, it converts to sugar pretty easily, you're going to limit those. But it's lots of vegetables, as you said, and it's chicken, fish, or grass-fed beef. And the fish is wild. It's not
Right.
farmed. And the chicken is also farm to table
Pastured.
or organic. And you don't have to eat a lot of that protein. You can
Yeah.
eat 2 to 3 ounces. You also tofu.
And people will say it's too expensive, but I only eat the size of the palm of my hand
It's
now.
not too expensive because you're not spending money on soda. You're not spending money on these gallons of ice creams or chips or boxed cereal, which is sort of like eating cardboard with milk on it. I mean, it's not expensive when you look at the whole gestalt of what you're not buying. You're not giving money to big food companies who have taken out the real essential nutrients and put fake nutrients in a box. Every time you buy a box, you're giving money towards the making of the box and the people who designed it and everything. I mean, those people need a job, but I go to the farmer's market and there's no boxes there.
Well, and I just did a whole podcast on the beauty of buying local if you can. Easy for me to say, I live in California, as do you. But the minute that vegetable or fruit is picked, it starts to lose some of its gifts, some of its phytonutrients. So you want to eat it as close to when it got picked as possible. But there's even a bigger advantage. By buying local, you're buying diversity that has been hauled out of conventional farming because they're picking plants that will last a long time. They're not picking them for nutrition or for flavor. So I just got someone that I'm coaching to go to a farmer's market, and she called me and said, I never ate a tomato that's good ever in my life.
That's the whole thing. When you start buying, tomatoes and potatoes are unbelievable. They haven't.
And she was blown away by the taste of the cucumber.
Yeah.
But when you get off the sugar, you also get back your taste buds.
Yeah.
So you start tasting real food the way you were supposed to, the way your body was made to taste it. So loving yourself enough to make that a priority. Plus, the other big advantage of going to farmers markets is I've met all kinds of people there.
Yes, it's so much fun.
So you want to form a community with like-minded people. And you can do that if you're going to the farmer's market all the time. We now know all our farmers. We have a fish lady at our farmer's market whose family's been in fish for 60 years, and she has better fish than when I lived in Seattle.
I can imagine, yeah.
So you get spoiled when you get the good stuff and you aren't so willing to give it up. And every farmer's market is different. We have a second home in Sedona in Arizona. So this summer, every weekend, we went to a different farmer's market. It was fun. We kept finding all kinds of great things at each farmer's market that we weren't aware was available. So I'm still a foodie. It's just now I eat quality food. It's different. And so make it fun, make it an adventure, and go out there and find all these great things that are out there that will replace the potato chips and what I call crap, the carbonated, refined, processed, artificial stuff that you've been eating.
And in the winter, I just want to say, if you live in a country in a state, an area where, winter is coming, it gets cold, and it's not, the farmers markets closed down here.
Yeah.
Some of them do, not all of them, but because in California, but I'm from Philadelphia. There's no outdoor farmers market when it's 23 degrees in December. Just go to your local co-op or even go to Whole Foods. It's better than nothing. It's better than Safeway. Or there's a great in Philadelphia where I grew up when I went to school, the little co-op that I joined many years ago is still there. And so there's local food co-ops all the time, and it's okay.
And there are CSA boxes that you can sign up for.
Great. Yeah.
So there's lots of options available so that you can get real quality food.
Right.
And that's
And
the
they change with the season. That's the whole thing. You're not going to get peaches in November. And that's the other thing I want to talk about. When I say modified Mediterranean, we change what we eat with the seasons. So in the summer, when it's hot, watermelon, melon, that's all fine.
cooling things.
Right. But in the winter, salads, I mean, I love salads, but it's too cold. So root vegetables that have been baked with olive oil and salt and pepper and rosemary, um, poached apples or pears, the fruit
And
is
that's
much
when we make
less.
things like stews. We
Mhm.
make and soups. We make heartier, warm foods
Right.
if we're following the season. And I love to get people to eat seasonally
Yes, it's really
because
important.
that'll also save you money. If you're afraid that you're going to spend too much money on organic, if you buy seasonally, you buy when it's supply and demand.
Mhm.
You buy the things that are being grown at that period in time and you take
Absolutely.
advantage of them.
You're right. That's the way to go.
So, yeah, no, I agree. And if I can get people to do this, they really start to feel the difference in their body pretty quickly.
Yes. When you've transferred your life to a more healthier version, and one of the things I want to say, and I talk about this in my 6 weeks Empowered Against Recurrence online program, it takes a while to make these changes. There's a lot of changes we have to make. And when you're not feeling well, first of all, you're not able to make these changes as quickly as normally. And there's no pressure. So when we are done with our courses, one of the appointments we have in our group is, okay, make a list considering everything we've gone over. What do you need to change in your life? Do you need to do a healthy pantry? Do you need to start having positive movement? Do you need to cut out the sugar and the carbs and the alcohol and the potato chips? I mean, where do you need to start? So you make your list. And then everyone says to me, I'm overwhelmed. And I go, of course you are. Let's look at the list and pick one thing that seems to you like the most doable and or the most important. And there could be 9 or 10 things on the list. I just want to start with one. And let's talk about how you're going to make that one change permanent in your life. And when you're beginning to make a change, it's like how we live, the rut, the road is very deep because we're used to that. That's called habits. But when you pick yourself up and you're creating healthier habits, you have to pick yourself up out of that rut, that road, and move yourself over to another phase, another road. And it takes energy and a long time to get that going. So you have to be gentle with yourself and you can't
Right.
think, oh, I I blew it. I didn't do, yeah, you're going to have mistakes. There's going to be times when you
And
get
that doesn't,
stressed.
I have a word that I love that a friend that worked for IBM used all the time. You don't get twisty. Okay, so you didn't do it well that time. You're aware of it. I like to have my coaching clients write it down in a journal so that they hold themselves accountable, but you don't spend any time thinking about it. You just know you're not going to try to do that again.
Right. When you get stressed out, the old tends to come up more easily. So, but that new change, it takes a good 3 to 6 months to make it like even feel familiar. Maybe it's how you're going to start your morning with a smoothie or a certain tincture that I provide for women as opposed to coffee. I mean, how you start the day provides the metabolic messaging for your body for the rest of the day. Do you want to start your day giving your body sugar and coffee, or do you want to start your day giving your body healing herbs and a delicious tasting smoothie? I mean, we have choice, right?
Hmm.
So those choices take energy, and so going through the pantry can be overwhelming. You open it up and there's 52 boxes of junk in there that needs to be either thrown out or donated to the food pantry. You don't want to throw out unopened boxes. There are people who can use it, but on the other hand, you want to make a list of what you need to replace. And I have a free ebook that I provide women about my healing nutrition, living a healthy life for women with breast cancer. I mean, there's a lot of information out there that women can learn about.
And if you get it out of sight, then you get it out of mind.
Not
You don't want,
necessarily.
Well, when you open up your pantry, if
Yeah,
it's there,
you
that's
can't,
what you're going to
yeah,
pick.
if it's not there, you're not going to be tempted. I have a potato chip addiction. We don't have potato chips in our house ever. Doesn't mean I don't crave them, but I
Yeah.
never will. I know that if I buy a bag of potato chips before I get it home, half of it will be, I mean, it's just, excuse me, it's unhealthy. So I just, I love myself. I don't go shopping when I'm hungry, and I don't buy potato chips. I just skip that aisle.
Yeah. And but not having it easily accessible is
Yeah,
huge.
it doesn't, like you said, I'm not opening up my pantry and thinking, oh, I'll buy them. It's going to be okay. No, it's not going to be okay. I don't buy them.
Right. Right.
Or ice cream. It's like there's certain things just don't come into our house. I mean, you have to be real with what your weak spots are. I think ice cream is a wonderful food group, but I don't eat it very often, and I don't have it in my house all the time. You
So,
have to be honest.
so you do work with all your patients on nutrition a lot as well.
I think it's the foundation of our health, no matter
Yeah,
what your illness
I
is.
agree.
Yes.
It was where I started, and it was where I felt in my body the biggest changes. And so, and it's something we all control ourselves.
Mhm.
So it's a great place to start because you don't need anybody's permission. You can just start to make healthier food choices and start bringing healthier food into the house. So it is a great place to start.
Yeah, and it's easy, and it takes time, and you have to be gentle with yourself.
Always. Since we live with ourselves 100% of the time, being kind to ourselves 100% of the time is important too, so that we have a good relationship with ourselves.
Right. And there's always this little negative voice that women have. Oh, I didn't do that so great. Oh, I could have done that better. Or I said A, but I should have said B. I mean, getting free from that voice is not an easy thing. And acknowledging that it's there and getting in tune with it is the first step. You can't then say to the voice, just shut up. It doesn't work like that because it's part of you. You need to
In the
have a
course
loving.
that I mentioned to you with the Who Said of the Greatest Magnitude, it was done by the Pacific Institute, and they actually rehabilitate people who are in jails to get back into society. And I just read up on him. He died in the early 2000s, but he used to be the football coach at USC and
Oh,
has trained many of the coaches across the country. I thought that was fascinating. But he had an exercise that worked really well for me. When that negative voice popped up in my head, what I learned to say is, Cheryl, why would you say that about yourself when you know that's not true?
that's good.
Every single time that that negative voice popped up in my head, I would say that. And then you convert it to, that's not true because, and then you let your inner champion out. And it's amazing how quickly those negative thoughts start to fade away. New ones will
Absolutely.
pop up, but you keep doing it until they're gone because those are also things that create habits.
Absolutely.
So makes it all very interesting. And I also sometimes I'll write it down. I'll make a column critic, champion. I'll write down the negative thought and then I'll let my champion argue with it until the critic goes away finally.
That's a nice idea.
So yeah.
I like
But
that, critic and champion. That's great.
so they're important things to do because you're always with your head. So you don't want it saying negative things to yourself all the
You
time.
can't escape your mind.
So
So I just want to share a little bit about my program because we have October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month happening any day. And this is a 6-week live group coaching program in which I go through my 6 steps of integrative care for women with breast cancer each week. And we gather together as a group and we go through, I have teaching slides and then I'm on Zoom with everyone for as long as you need for all your questions to be answered. That's part 1 of the program. The other part is when you join the program, you get my online educational course from the pathofbreastcancer.com, which has 3 modules: treatment, recovery, and preventing recurrence. And you're getting the 3rd module, preventing recurrence. Within that, there's 5 chapters, which cover everything you need to know about this phase of your healing journey with breast cancer, from nutritional components to what supplements to take, to lifestyle changes, to mindset and meditation, and to readjusting to the new you, because there is a new you that happens when you've finished through your breast cancer journey. And then we have guest bonus speakers and other surprises. I offer a 30-minute consultation with myself for free. You get a discount on my services if you decide you want to work with me individually. There's an enormous amount that you get. The fee for this is $197. And the online program is $197. So it's sort of like you're getting everything for free almost. I mean, it's over $2,600 value. And I've made it $197 for this month of breast cancer because I want all women to be able to afford this.
Now, I'm not sure this podcast will be heard in October.
Okay.
So if it's heard in November, what would this cost them?
It's going to be $197 until the end of this year.
Okay. Just so I don't want somebody to go, hey, but wait a minute, it's already November, because it'll take us a little while to produce this and to get it up and running and on the schedule. So
that's great. So if you're watching this and it's not October anymore and it's still 2021, you can still sign up for this program. I launch once a month. And then if you're watching it and it's January of 2022, if you email me and say, I saw this program through Cheryl and I will honor this $197 price, even though it's going to be 3 times more.
Now that's an incredible
opportunity. That is my dedication to your community. So you'll have to email me, and you'll know how to email me when you.
Well, and I'll put that on the podcast. It'll be in the notes so that you know how to reach Carol.
Wonderful.
And then when I post on social media, I give additional information because I'm somewhat limited to how much Voice America will let me say. So I'll make sure all the important links are there, but then I will write out more information when I advertise it and market it. Wonderful. Yeah. So I'll give them as much as I can give them.
Great. My commitment is to bring this protocol, these tools, this attitude and this healing message to as many women throughout the world as possible. 7.8 million women within the last 5 years have had a diagnosis of breast cancer throughout the world, 3.8 in the US. So the scope of the problem of breast cancer is not diminishing. I know there's a lot of focus on the virus now, but the scope of the problem of breast cancer is very large.
Well, and interestingly enough, if people would take care of their health to not get the virus, they would also be taking care of their health to not get the cancer. Building the foundation of support in your body is so important. So learning what you're teaching is critical to keep them healthy from a lot of things.
Okay, I just want to say that yes, about building foundation of health, but unfortunately, I know several really healthy people who got the virus and passed away. So I think there needs to be a different component to this. You can be really healthy. I mean, I know a 32-year-old who was a trainer who took really good care of himself, he wasn't like doing steroids, or was just generally really healthy, ate organic, had a wonderful life, loved his work. He got sick and he died. So sometimes the virus doesn't have.
This virus doesn't
have rhyme or reason for how, it's like one thing if there's an much older and very obesity is one of the contributing factors it's known to death with this virus. But there are healthy young people. Now notice healthy, because some people are young and not healthy. But there are people who are, this was before vaccination was available. They just succumbed to the virus and they didn't do anything wrong. So I don't want to give the messaging to people that if you're healthy, you're not only going to get cancer, but you're also not going to get the virus. You can be healthy and still get the virus or cancer, and there's no blame there. I mean, you can do your best. You can do your best.
But doing everything you can to support your body is important to help you have the right foundation for when one of these things happens to you.
Right. You will have an easier time if you are, as you just said, doing everything to keep your health and have a good, healthy, strong foundation, you will have an easier time during and after treatment. Absolutely.
Yeah, one thing, I have worked on my health now strongly for 10 years, but I still have autoimmune disease. I just don't have pain. So I don't know how vulnerable I am. So I am very careful, and I am continuing to make sure that I leave all my foundation pieces in place, because I want to give myself the best opportunity to ward off whatever's coming in my future.
I think that's a really important attitude, Cheryl. Absolutely. Yes.
So, yeah. And I want other people to adopt that, because there are things they can do that will give them a running start to be healthier. It will not solve everything, but it will give them a running start to be healthier.
Yeah, that's a nice phrase. Get a running start to be healthier.
So,
Have a running start to be healthier. Make the right choices for yourself.
do you do telemedicine with
I
people?
do.
Okay, then since you're in Berkeley and a lot of people listening, we're in 80 countries. It's important that they know that they could still have access to you from wherever
Yes.
they are.
Thank
And the
goodness for
reason that
Zoom.
I love doing these is I want to give people hope that no matter what they're dealing with, there are other solutions and there are other care practitioners that could help them find whatever those solutions are. So don't be afraid to keep searching for somebody who is hearing you, resonating with you, and dealing directly with what your concerns are.
Absolutely. I've had women from Sweden, France, Germany, Britain, and Malta in my online programs. I've consulted with people throughout the world. So thank goodness for Zoom.
Thank goodness for Zoom. I know sometimes I hate it, but thank goodness for Zoom. So fabulous. So then people know how they can find you, which is great. Well, thank you so much for coming on my show. It's been delightful to talk to you. And I'm sure a lot of people have learned quite a bit, especially anybody who does have cancer or breast cancer and is looking for another way. So this
Thank
is
you so much.
fantastic.
The
Thank you
best
for
way to
coming.
reach me, the best way to reach me is through my website, Carol Lourie. That's CarolLourie.com. Use the contact me page. I'll get an email. I respond to every email that I receive.
Fabulous. And I will also put that right under the notes on the podcast when it publishes. So good. Thank you.
Thank you for
Lovely
having
to
me.
meet you. Take care. Bye-bye.